We unpack. We unpack. We unpack. Coming to you live. Boxing Ego unpack. Yeah. We unpack. We unpack. We unpack. Coming to you live. PBC, Premier Boxing Champ, deliver us from evil. It's looking like PBC, Al Heyman's PBC, Premier Boxing Champs, they could be set to release at least some of their 24 schedule. 2024, brand new year. So far has been crickets. We have heard little to nothing about any PBC events, what's to come. There's been no announcements. There's a couple promoters like Golden Boy and DAZN, and they've released a couple of their fights, but none of the heavy hitters, right? Matchroom, earlier today, they released Richardson Hitchens, his next opponent. It's not like a big, huge name. It's not like he's fighting Devin Haney or something. You have a couple fights. I guess the biggest announced fights would be maybe Joshua versus Ngannou and Tyson Fury versus Usyk. But I'll be frank with you. When it comes to Tyson Fury Usyk, despite it being a good fight, despite it being a fight where all the marbles are up for grabs, undisputed in the heavyweight division, which hasn't happened probably since Lennox Lewis, right? I haven't heard too much buzz. And I'm just being real with you. You know I don't lie on my channel. Now, shout out to my man, Alan Dawson. He's a boxing reporter and writer. Alan Dawson Sport. Make sure you guys follow him on X, formerly known as Twitter. You guys see, I put his tweet and it says, sounds like Premier Boxing Champions may be getting ready to make an announcement later this week, per source with knowledge of the company's strategy. TGB Promotions, Tom Brown, Goosen, right? Promotions has commission holds on numerous dates in Nevada. The one that likely sticks out is March 30th in Las Vegas. PBC, come deliver us from evil. This is great news, and I'm going to explain in this video why I believe it to be great news. Because boxing needs PBC, and that is apparent. Now, make sure you guys follow me on social media at Boxing Ego, the dawn of all boxing talk, right? I put out some tweets, and I want to go over them. One regarding Tank Davis. I said, Ego promise. The people that make videos, posts, and tweets about Gervonta Davis daily, they won't stop talking about him throughout 2024. You hate his move so much, ignore him. I don't go to restaurants if I do not like the food, nor do I talk about them. I simply move on, keep it pushing, and go to places that I like. Boxing is looking soft. It's looking real soft, yo. These dudes is weirdos and groupies, strange beta behavior in 2024, and these dudes cannot help themselves. Hashtag unpopular opinion. And I meant every single word. Again, follow me on social media. So when it comes to Gervonta Davis, a PBC fighter, there are a lot of different theories and speculation about what he's doing. I've seen he's fighting this guy. I've seen he's fighting that guy. I've seen some people claim he's ducking this guy. Some people claim that he's ducking that guy. But none of it has been proven. None of it has been, sourced or attributed to anything that is realistic. Make sure you guys follow me on Instagram at Boxing Ego. Listen, I'm almost to 50,000. We can get there. Almost to 50,000 on the channel. So help the channel get there at Boxing Ego 1 on Instagram and Threads. You guys see it right there. And the link is in the description too, so we can get straight to the money in 2024. Follow the page. So regarding Gervonta Davis, like he made this statement. He said something to the effect of, Give me 2 Ferraris for me to even discuss going to fight in Saudi Arabia. And I've seen some people, they try to flip it in the comment section. Oh, he's ducking Devin Haney. Listen, it sounds like borderline stalkerish at this point from some of the fans. For example, Devin Haney, if he could no longer make 135 and he moved up to 140, that's what he chose to do. That's not a big deal. You know, that's where he was at his career. He looked very good, pause, versus Regis Prograis, and he did the thing. But that doesn't mean everybody has to follow suit because he did. Like, for example, how many fighters are at 135? Outside of Tank Davis, how many fighters are at 135, right? So Devin Haney moved up. Does Shakur Stevenson have to move up to 140 right now? Not in the future, but right now, because Devin Haney did. Does Keyshawn Davis have to move up from 35 to 40? Does Frank Martin and El Rayo, guys who are making 135 and they're comfortable and they're making it comfortable, why don't they have to move up? So why does Tank, who's actually literally probably the smallest of everybody I just named, you know, people are saying, oh, he needs to move up and he don't got to do anything. When you're the A side, you don't have to do anything. And it's very apparent to me, you guys can play games, but like I said, a lot of the weirdos and groupies, they're doing what they feel is popular, but it's like a lot of clickbait. You know, you hate Tank, you hate the way he's moving, you hate PBC, you hate Floyd Mayweather, you hate all of these things, but then you won't stop talking about it. We've seen this movie before. I also put hashtag unpopular opinion. Old media hates on Al Heyman and PBC routinely, but it's clear in the absence of PBC shows. With PBC boxing, without PBC, it would be rather abysmal and hard to follow. Tons of clickbait, people making up topics, reaching fake fight flyer graphics to fight and to fights that aren't going to happen next. Fake polls on Twitter X, people counting inactive days of only PBC fighters, fake ducking labels from fans, etc. It is apparent this is trash without the PBC schedule of actual fights in the mix. LOL. Again, I meant every single word. So, what am I saying here? In case you struggle to comprehend, boxing would be in a terrible, terrible spot without PBC. PBC, they just exited one deal with Showtime. So I feel like 2024, there's been a little bit of a drought, if you will. It's been a little bit of a drought because PBC, normally their schedule probably would have been out by now. Because like last year, they had Showtime. So they had been doing shows on Showtime, no biggie. Tank Davis fought in January against Hector Luis Garcia. So that was in DC. It did great. It did great, like ticket sales. And we knew if he got past that fight, then he was fighting Ryan Garcia. So this was a fight that people were checking for. And it also had Boots Ennis on the undercard, as well as Demetrius Boo Boo Andrade. So people were ultimately checking for it, and you knew the fight was in January. Later in January, it was supposed to be Tim Tszyu versus Jermell Charlo. But Jermell Charlo ended up hurting his hand, and that's why that fight got pulled out. Like, he had to pull out, right? And then he got the Canelo call later in the year, and he ended up taking that. But the point I'm making is we had two big fights that were already known about in 2022 at the end of it, entering 2023. And I think, and I truly believe that's because Showtime, they had their home, versus Showtime announced last year, Paramount or Viacom or whoever, CBS, they announced that Showtime was getting out of the boxing business. So as a result of them getting out of the boxing business, they were terminating their sports branch, like Bellator, MMA fights, and boxing. They couldn't continue to support it or whatever, right? Or they wanted to focus their resources on other types of content, like more original series and specials. Maybe they looked at the numbers and decided, hey, this is not enough of a percentage of our business, so we got to cut some corners somewhere. We'll get rid of our sporting departments, right? So whatever the reason, Showtime bailed. And I think that has created this drought because normally, again, when the network is not brand new and it's a network connection that has already been established, I think we would have got fights by now. But in the absence, like I said in that tweet, in the absence of PBC, boxing has been in distress. It's just people making up stories. We have clickbait, people reaching. It's like people, they don't even know what to talk about. And it's funny for me because I've been in the game so long, I just sit back and watch. I'm not finna burn my energy on, like, for example, this year, we're not even to February. So we haven't even gotten 1 month. We haven't gone 1 month without boxing, like in what I'm saying is like the PBC announcements. We haven't even made it clear past 1 month. And I'm seeing daily fight flyers made from graphic designers, not the actual companies or not like commissioned work, just like, and the work is good. So I'm not even hating on the people and the graphic designers that are actually conjuring this up. But the point I'm making is you're seeing all these fighters and they're posting these flyers like this fight versus this fight. Adrian Broner versus Devin Haney fight flyer. Adrian Broner versus Ryan Garcia. Rolly versus Ryan Garcia. You know, Ryan Garcia versus Devin Haney. And I'm seeing a million fight flyers. Not one of the fights are actually done, though. Not one of the fights has been confirmed or announced from the actual company or companies in which these fighters fight on. So that becomes a problem, right? Because, again, people want to see good fights, no doubt about it, but they want to actually see the fight. Like, look, here's one. Romero versus Ryan. And then days later, they say, oh, it's not happening. De La Hoya claims that Rolly priced himself out. Rolly cusses him out. Here's another one. We got a brand new one from Adrian Broner. Haney versus Broner. But again, where's the actual negotiations? Where's the contracts? Broner's advocating for the fight, but we're not getting it. So you see, without PBC, we're in the doldrums. We're in the doldrums of boxing where none of this stuff is happening. It's just a bunch of fake fight flyers, fake news, fake scripts, saying Tank is ducking, you know what I mean? And things like that. So I'll be very thankful when PBC comes out with their schedule. Now, again, there are a couple fights like Jaime Munguia versus John Ryder. There's some fights out there. I told you AJ versus Ngannou. But even with these fights, how many of them are huge fights like last year's Ryan Garcia versus Gervonta Davis, right? That's why you see people nonstop talking about fantasy fights and nonstop talking about Gervonta Davis rather than talking about Jaime Munguia and John Ryder. So it makes boxing look pitiful, especially for like newcomers, because it's like, that's all y'all do is talk about fantasy fights. So I'll be so glad when we start getting some real traction, because we know PBC has been putting on the biggest fights and they have the biggest stars. Terrence Crawford likely has one more fight with PBC, whether it's Tim Tszyu or Errol Spence. I need to know, because Crawford is my #1 fighter right now on the pound for pound list. That's a great fight. So I think PBC will help restore the order when they come out. You know, people are saying, oh, Gervonta Davis, he's fighting Frank Martin. Says who? I never heard of that. None of my sources have said that fight is happening. And again, you got people spreading fake news. I don't know if he's fighting Frank Martin, but I'll rather hear it from Tank than people on YouTube or Twitter, you know? And that's what people are just left up to their own vices and imagination when PBC hasn't released their schedule. Oh, he's fighting Frank Martin. Nobody said that, though, other than like nobody affiliated. And if you ain't affiliated, then why should I care? If you don't run Tank's social media, if you're not on Tank's team, if you're not on Frank Martin's team, you're not Derek James, you're not PBC, why would I listen to you? And some of y'all are falling for the mousetrap. Me personally, if I had to speculate, which I don't like to even speculate, again, I'd rather hear from the horse's mouth. I don't think he's fighting Frank Martin. I think he'll probably fight El Rayo Valenzuela on Amazon Prime. But again, I'm gonna let Tank do that. Y'all can talk about, oh, Tank ain't this, and I don't want to see Tank fight Latinos and all that. But I guarantee you, when Tank's fight on Amazon is being promoted, these same people that don't like it will be all over it, talking about the press conference and this guy pushed this guy and what each person said. So it goes to show you that Tank is the biggest star and PBC's putting on the biggest fights because the people want to see what Gervonta's next fight is. What is Errol Spence doing next? What is Terrence Crawford doing next? What is Canelo? Pay they? And these are all people with PBC. So I'm so glad my man Alan Dawson came out and his sources are conveying a great message that PBC schedule could be coming soon. Let me know what you guys think. Drop your thoughts in the comment section. And we out. The future is now. The future is now. The Hibernation 5s by Kenichi Bear. Hybrid gaming and lifestyle headphones. Out of the box, you can connect to any console or PC. Bluetooth ready with a low latency USB adapter, color RGB, and extreme bass mode. The Hibernation 5s adjust to you. Whether you need a gaming, travel, gym, or lifestyle headphones, the Hibernations got you covered. The new Hibernation 5s, link in the description. Customize the way you hear the world. Welcome to the nation.